how are you guys?
How are you?
Senator.
Oh, great to see you.
Likewise.
First of all, just thank you, Senator Cantwell, for joining us. We really appreciate it. With Facebook and Twitter and Google coming in to testify in front of the Senate Commerce Committee this week, ASP is going to take a look at examining the changing face of media and information and technology across all of our sections. And we're really excited that you're here for the first ASP chat that we have this week, because not only are you a ranking member of the Senate Commerce Committee, but I believe tomorrow, you are releasing a report on the declining state of the local newspaper industry. And in that report, you state that over 200 counties around the country have no local newspapers covering their communities at all. So can you just jump in and tell us a little bit about your report and how you feel that's affecting the state of journalism and information in our country?
Yeah, well, thanks for having me on. And I looked a little bit at your work, and I can see right away ASP is concerned about trust and the trust of information. And that is exactly why we don't want to lose local news. It is an ecosystem, an engine that creates accurate information. As somebody described it, they hang lanterns on problems and let the light shine through. So the fact that as they've moved online in the digital transformation, they have had to change their business models, not unsimilar to what happened in music and film. And yet while they're making that transition, they're getting walloped with some unfair practices. And so we hope to ask them about this at the hearing and draw a light to that.
Sure. Well said. Well, we're certainly living in the proliferation of the internet age, and one of those ripple effects is social media. Can you talk about how that proliferation of social media specifically has impacted news and the way people get their news?
Well, the problem is that 77% of the online advertising market is controlled by Facebook and Google. And so that's a lot of ad revenue. So our report shows that as newspapers have tried to move online, they've lost about 70% of their revenue. Basically, inventory got really cheap for advertising. But newspapers are adjusting because they're a trusted brand, and we are seeing advertisers who say, oh, I want to be with those people who have accurate, trusted information. But yet these websites who aggregate that content can put unfair business terms on the table and kind of take it or leave it. We call it a choke point. So they either say to the advertisers, to the news media, give me your news, and I'm just going to put it on there, or we're going to slow down your traffic. And that's not a good thing to do. We wouldn't put it up with our paperboy doing it to us, so we sure shouldn't put up with a social media platform doing it to us either.
You mentioned in your report about media bias and fake news. So to piggyback off that, what Chris was asking, does the rise of social media warrant greater regulation around media tech companies to help prevent the spread of disinformation?
Well, that's a great question, because what I'm saying is that the whole ecosystem of local news is about getting accurate information. It's very competitive, right? So the LA Times gets it right, or maybe they don't get it right. I'm sure the San Francisco paper or the New York Times will help get it right. So many voices help create competition to get it right. That's an engine of trusted, accurate information. The online world can have a lot of disinformation. And so we want to create an environment where there is trusted information. We want to keep the ecosystem that exists, the engine that exists, and we definitely want to make sure that hate speech and inaccurate healthcare information is definitely addressed and not proliferated online.
Sure. Based on some of the findings in your report, do you think there is a way to ostensibly course correct and save local journalism?
Captain America maybe can come in and save the day. I keep saying to people, this 1950s, Superman, truth, justice, in the American way. It was like part of a whole imagery, right? And somehow this is a little bit lost, that people don't get. They say, oh, well, this local newspaper might close. Well, what does that matter? And yet it does matter a lot, because they are part of that community. They are keeping government accountable. There's even data in the report that shows you lose economic value in your community if you don't have a newspaper, because you're not getting accurate information. So I think that there is a way for us, now that we have a common understanding of the problems and what caused them, now let's talk about what to do to help stabilize the situation so they can find their footing. Since you guys are steeped into the LA scene, I know you get this, that even in music and film, there's still transformation happening. It is not settled out, right? Who's going to even be in the content business? How big are they going to be? How vertical are they going to be? How much are they going to control? And so these guys, news as a media business is really just still in the first few innings of this ball game.
Are there any examples out there of innovation that are working on the local level that you know of?
Well, you guys are a great example. Okay. So here you're creating this content and you're saying you want to create a brand about trust, and you're saying you want to go interview people on both sides of the aisle to try to deliver that. So that is fabulous, right? And one of the, just like everything else, I mean, again, you guys probably know really great examples about music and film that the internet is empowered, right? It's easier for everybody to connect. So now we're finding, it used to be we got up in the morning, we read the newspaper, for a half an hour, 40 minutes, and you threw it aside and you never thought it had life. Well, now people are getting journalism read to them in a podcast. And then that podcast is on a bike ride with them or at the gym or while you're doing the dishes or in your car. And people are able to consume information that they really had a lot of interest in, but they didn't have time to consume it. So we are going to see some really great tools that the information age is going to empower about journalism and news. It's just that it takes a while for the business models to develop.
Really well said.
Yeah. Well, so lastly, as a ranking member of the Senate Commerce Committee, you're going to be sharing this report with the hearing on Wednesday.
Yep.
Tell us about how your report ties into the hearing, and can you give us a preview of what you'll be saying to the heads of Google and Facebook and Twitter?
Well, part of the hearing, people wanted to say, oh, we're really worried about these online platforms doing these things. Really, the 2016 election, a lot of people were upset by what was going on, and these platforms have tried to do a better job of policing the hate speech or false information or things that have happened. They have taken a step forward. We had a case in our state where even in Burma, we felt like there was horrible things happening, and they weren't. And people said, you need to take this information off the web. You're inciting this violence against these people, and they didn't take it down right away. So we feel that they have taken more corrective action towards hate speech and inaccurate information, and certainly information that is inaccurate on public health matters. So we don't want them bullied, but I think we have colleagues who now want to kind of beat them up and say, oh, hey, you've gone too far. And, you haven't, printed things, that we want to see. And journalism has been very responsible. I guarantee you, if there was a broadcast station that had inaccurate information, they would correct it. They would, or either lose their license. So we want these guys to continue to do a good job of not producing hate speech and not producing inaccurate information. But we'll see tomorrow how, some of our other colleagues treat it. And I'm definitely not going to tolerate people trying to sow disbelief into the aftermath of the election. I think there's, I think my guess is they're going to come tomorrow saying, well, in a week or 2 weeks, we won't even know who won, and how are we going to, have faith in the system? I won a seat in the United States Senate in the year 2000 by 2,229 votes. So not a very thin margin. And yet people had faith that that was the correct result. And we want people to have faith in our electoral process, and we want people to have faith in the types of voting that we're putting in place to more empower citizenry.
That's fantastic.
Thank you so much for finding time for us. We know you're busy. Thank you for everything you do. And we really
thanks, you guys. It's great. I'm so glad you guys are doing this, and I do think it's a very great value. So appreciate it.
Absolutely. When we started ASP, we wanted to make sure we opened up access to everyone, but especially the people that log onto our site tend to be people who live on social media. So showing the bridge between all parts of journalism is a real mission for ours, and we really appreciate participating in the conversation for ASP Chats.
Okay.
Thanks, Senator. Have a great week. Take care.